Welcome to the latest episode of Five on the Floor on the Five Reasons Sports Network. Thanks for joining us on your favorite podcast app on Apple Podcasts. On Android, we recommend Spotify. Also, check out the Five Reasons YouTube channel. You can find all your South Florida content right in that spot. Also, check out Off the Floor. That's our Discord server. That's $2.99 per month. Link is right here in the description. The place for the most heat anywhere, the most heat information and conversation. You can find it on Off the Floor as well as our stage shows. We got so much going on there. If you're interested in this team, you really need to be subscribed. Also, if you have a car accident of any kind, you got to reach out to our friends over at 305-800-PAIN. 24/7, bilingual, based in Doral. They will get you to the right attorney to take care of your situation right away. It's a very easy number to remember. They make it easy for you. There's a 305 in there. There's an 800 in there. And there's PAIN in there. 305-800-PAIN. Car accident, slip and fall. Reach out to our friends at 305-800-PAIN. And now, today's episode.
Uh-oh. Yeah. It's Mercy. Music by Mercy again. Heat Nation, we the culture. Yo, E, I need you to call timeout. Need Brady to set the floor plan. Tropical blanket, open for the shot. Yo, Greg, set the pick. Still five on the floor, still ride for my dog. Still battle on the court, still survive in the war. Keep your eye on the ball, or get burned from the keep this mic off the wall without turning the cheek. From night to day, no sleepy paths or allowed to mourn us. The nut is sleeping us, never catch us snoring. Live from Miami, report in the heat with 5 Reasons Sports from the courts to the streets. Yeah, Wake County, Heat Nation, we say it proudly.
Welcome to Five on the Floor, a daily insider show on the Miami Heat and the NBA, featuring Ethan Skolnick, Greg Sylvander, Alex Toledo, Brady Hawk, and others from the 5 Reasons Sports Network. Also, make sure to subscribe to Off the Floor for the most heat anywhere.
All right, welcome back to Five on the Floor. Here's today's floor plan. I'm Ethan Skolnick. You can follow me at Ethan J. Skolnick at 5 Reasons Sports. I got Greg Sylvander. You can follow him at Greg Sylvander. This is another of these stories that never, ever, 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 ever goes away. We saw Giannis last night. He was on the court getting some work done. Not work done. Not like he was like getting plastic surgery or anything. I mean, he was like getting his work in. Yeah. Work in. I'm sorry, I'm in Miami. I'm used to that expression. Getting out in Lauderdale, same thing. So he was getting his work in on the court. And look, he doesn't have a very good team around him. Like we watched it last night. They did beat the Heat in a preseason game, but there's not a lot there. I mean, it's Kevin Porter Jr., it's Kyle Kuzma. They brought in Miles Turner, but I mean, let's be serious. Okay. That team's not winning a championship, and they should be in position to win a championship because they have Giannis, and he has been one of the top 5 players in the league for probably the past 8 years. So the fact that they're not really going to expect it to be a top 3 team in the East suggests that maybe he might look for somewhere else to go. And of course, we've talked about the Heat. We even printed t-shirts, Giannis Bam 21. That's how long ago this was.
Guilty.
Yeah, right. It hasn't happened. And we always speculate about it because obviously they would want him. And there were 2 reports that came out today that kind of indicate where the Heat are on this and where they are in the league. One report was from Shams Charania from ESPN now, who said that Giannis was interested in leaving Milwaukee, but we only really want to go to the East and only really wanted to go to the Knicks.
Yeah, had an exclusive window. New York and Milwaukee had an exclusive window in August, I think is what it said, where those 2 teams had some talks related to what it would take to get Giannis to New York. Obviously, that didn't materialize. But that was it was framed as if Giannis looked around the league, and particularly to me, it felt like looked around the East and said New York is the one spot that I think would put me heads and shoulders above everyone else in the conference, and that would be a fast track. And I think that's an interesting thing that we need to evaluate now, if that's truthfully what he sees in the landscape of the East.
And he also knows, in New York, he'd get the most promotional opportunities, which didn't seem to matter to him before, but seems to matter more now. And also, the Knicks have been willing to make the big splash. They traded Randall for Towns. And unfortunately for them, they traded 5 first-round picks for Mikal Bridges. If they had not, they would have been in a better position probably to negotiate a trade for Giannis, but they didn't have those first-round picks. So that was the first part of this. The second part of this was Barry Jackson from the Miami Herald reporting that the Heat were willing to basically give up everything but Bam for Giannis. And this has relevance here because Giannis and Bam have the same agent. We've talked about that before. This is always the issue when talking about going after a top player is that they don't want to give up Bam. That has been the case consistently over and over. We talk about it with Donovan Mitchell that and Dame that Bam was the attraction, and that's even when Jimmy was there. And so you don't want to trading the player to get the other player doesn't end up leading to the other player wanting to come. He wants the player to be there when he's there. And so
Giannis is no different.
no, he's no different, but I do believe most Heat fans, and I know your feelings on Bam, okay? And I
No,
get
but
it, and I
let's
share
have
a
the
lot of them.
conversation because I know what you're about to ask.
I mean, you do it, okay? Right?
Absolutely. There's no question about it. Listen, I am probably like if Bam were to remain a Heat player for the rest of his career at his current rate of speed in terms of how well he's played, I would say he'd probably rank second behind Dwayne for me. Like that's where he has the ability to go. So that's how close to the heart Bam Adebayo is. But for Giannis, you make that deal 1-for-1 all day, even more than 1-for-1. But I think what people need to, and this is what the Heat are up against, and I think that this is where the real meat of the discussion comes in. This isn't about like, would we give up Bam or the Heat give up Bam? It's that when Giannis looks at the team and Bam's not there, he's like, I don't want to go there. That
Right.
doesn't make sense.
Same
So
with Durant also. I mean, this is it's the
many
we have
of these guys.
right.
So
We
the
have the same
bigger
conversation all the
question
time.
is, can the Heat cobble together enough really good players that are on value contracts or assets to be able to get into the market for guys like this and keep Bam on the roster? That's the big question.
It's been the big question now for 4 years. I mean, and look, the possible offer that could be made, and I'm not reporting anything like this because I don't know what specifically what they were willing to offer. But if you look at the trade machine and some things that are thrown out there, I mean, it could have been Hero, Jaquez, Ware, um, Casper.
Casachonis, yeah.
I'm not pronouncing. Yeah, Kasparis, and then Rozier's contract to make things work. Like something along those lines would have been it. And even that, I don't think the Bucks would have taken particularly seriously. So it's a cute conversation, but really what the Heat have needed is one of these guys to say, no, I want to go there. Right. And then like Dame did. And then hopefully you have a party on the other side that you can work with and you can make the numbers work as well. But with Giannis, he basically said, no, I want to go to the Knicks. And without him pushing to a place like Miami, it's not going to happen because Miami's assets alone are not enough. Now, the assets could grow. That's the thing. Like, that's the idea of having a young team that the average rotation age is like under 26 because one of these guys could pop into that kind of player. Look, could it be Jovic? I'm not projecting superstar for Jovic. I'm saying I said he was going to be one of their top three or four players this year, and I'm sticking to that based on what I've seen here in the preseason. Could it be Ware? Well, if Spo doesn't defeat him first, which is another topic that we're going to get into here on an upcoming podcast, but there's the potential for some of these guys to become. Look, when Giannis came in the league, okay, I interviewed him as a rookie. He was skinnier than me. All right,
Nobody knew. Nobody really knew. Let's be honest.
Nobody
Same
knew.
thing
He
with
was
Joker. Nobody knew.
No, nobody knew. Okay, same thing with Jimmy when Jimmy was drafted 30th overall. Nobody knew. Okay, with Giannis, I remember interviewing him, and he was like the nicest guy. Like as a rookie, he still is. He still has a lot of those characteristics. By the way, he's known. Him and Steph are known for taking care. I've told this before, but I thought of this last night when I saw him. That they take care of like the equipment guys and everything in the visiting locker room more than anybody else does. Giannis still has that rep. Okay. And he was this like the sweetest guy, like as a rookie. And I was doing this story for Bleacher Report about foreign players' adjustments to America. And he like literally broke down crying talking about his own adjustment, okay, and that kind of stuff. Like, but at that time I did not recognize that I was like interviewing somebody who was going to become an MVP, a champion, an icon, and nobody thought that. And so I always say this when people are like, "Oh, this guy on this team that this team could be, this player that this team could be offering, he's not anything." It doesn't mean he's not going to become anything. I mean, all of these guys had to spike up to a certain point from where the projections were. So some of the Heat's players could develop into a player like Giannis, I guess. I mean, Ware was drafted 15th overall, same as Giannis. I'm not expecting it. Okay, I don't think it's going to happen. But I just know that the offer as it would currently stand based on where the players are in the league and not just projections, the Heat would not have enough to get Giannis, not without including Bam. They just
No,
wouldn't.
and that's where it's incumbent on them going forward. If they want Bam to be part of the go forward solution, and I have a hunch that they do, I
Yeah.
think if you asked everyone in that building, you would get basically it would be unanimous that if Bam can retire in Miami, that's what they all would like to happen. So if that's going to be the case, they're going to need to be, and fans have called this out, but you know, it's a lot easier to tweet about it than to actually execute it in the NBA. But they are going to have to evaluate when they can sell a player and get any level of an asset that can help to sweeten the pot so that they can actually keep Bam in one of these conversations. So I just think that does, it's going to become more and more of a focus point when we're looking at what do they have to offer in the event that they are really attached to keeping Bam, not just because they want Bam on the team and Spo wants Bam and things like that, but because the guy they're trying to acquire also wants Bam to be in a Heat uniform. So that's the challenge.
It is, and it's tricky. And you need a lot more deals like the Norm Powell deal. Although Norm is not going to bring other guys in, but it just makes your basketball team look better in the meantime, and makes your team look more attractive. And I know you guys hit on this on the podcast last night, you and Major, but Norm looks seamless right now. Like this is he is, and everything you hear about behind the scenes, it manifested itself in that preseason game with 18 points in 16 minutes and playing off of the ball and getting off of the ball and all the things that he does well. But again, Norm's upside at 32 years old is maybe he makes an all-star team, and that would be fantastic. But you're not talking about like generational talent for the next like 10 years. The Heat don't have that guy. Bam is a fixture. They're not going to move him, I don't believe. Tyler is another story because his archetype is valued a little differently. And also he's due for the extension. Bam already has it. And obviously Bam has been, more available than Tyler has been. And it's not Tyler's fault, but it's just that's been the case with the exception of last season. So we'll talk more about this on the other side. But I did want to, at least kind of get into the point that, we can talk about Heat fans going to, the Heat need to get in the mix for that. Well, that's fine. With what? You know what I mean? Like,
exactly.
Right. I mean, you almost need Giannis to just fall in love with the city. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like,
or a coach or a
right.
situation and just, see, this is what has made Heat fans feel, and we should probably save this for the break, but I'll sneak it in here. This is where Heat fans have become really jaded because like Dame said Miami and Miami only, and he had like Shams out there tweeting he only wants to be in Miami, and the fact that went so sour and just didn't manifest the way that they expected. I just think Heat fans ultimately just feel like, gosh, can we ever get in the mix for any of this? Right. And so that's why I think we're trying to illustrate the path forward and how it could actually happen.
Right. When it really can't happen. At least not now. Anyway, you know what will happen if you don't do this? You're not going to feel so good the next day. And we want to prevent that. Okay. So I'm going to tell you about a game-changing product that I use before a day or night out with drinks. It's called pre-alcohol. Let's face it, after a night with drinks, I'm 52 years old. I don't bounce back the next day the way I used to. I got to make a choice. I can either have a great night or a great next day. That is until I found pre-alcohol. So check it out. Zbiotics pre-alcohol probiotic drink. The first, this is the first, okay? The first of its kind, okay? The first genetically engineered probiotic. It was invented by PhD scientists to tackle rough mornings after drinking. Here's how it works. When you drink, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in the gut. It's a buildup of this byproduct, not dehydration, that's to blame for rough days after drinking. Pre-alcohol produces an enzyme to break this byproduct down. Just remember to make pre-alcohol your first drink of the night. Drink responsibly, and you'll feel your best tomorrow. Every time I have pre-alcohol before drinks, I notice a difference the next day. Even after night, I can confidently plan on doing this podcast without any issues, even if I don't know what I'm talking about. So check it out. Fall is here, and that means it's time to enjoy cooler weather and some drinks out with friends, whether you're enjoying a pint at a fall festival, spooky cocktail over on Lincoln Road or Las Olas. Don't forget to drink a pre-alcohol before drinking. You'll be able to celebrate and still wake up feeling great the next day. Go to zbiotics.com/on-the-floor to learn more and get 15% off your first order when you use on the floor at checkout. Zbiotics is backed with 100% money back guarantee. So if you're unsatisfied for any reason, they'll refund your money, no questions asked. Remember to head to zbiotics.com/on-the-floor and use the code on the floor at checkout for 15% off. I don't really know what else there is to say about this story at this point, other than the fact that it's going to be milked now for months by ESPN
Oh yeah,
until
the New
right.
York connection. What
Crazy.
what would be bigger? Boston, maybe?
I don't even think Boston. I think the
You're
fact
right.
that the Knicks are already relevant, which has been so long since that's happened, the fact that you got Screaming A talking about them every 3 minutes, this is just going to be constant to the point that you just got to turn it off. I mean, LeBron can do as many commercials as he wants that are framed as something else, which whatever the heck that was today. But the decision too.
Oh
But
my gosh.
right, okay, that was the lie, and
No
people didn't
comment.
realize that that was going to be that, and I don't understand why they didn't realize that. Of course, it was going to be that, but he can do all he wants on that and everything else. This is going to be about Giannis now until he's moved or not moved. Everybody's going to be watching Milwaukee, and it does seem like Giannis can use the leverage of 27 and some of these teams clearing cap space like Golden State and others. Again, the Heat could do that. We didn't get a chance to talk about this. Actually, maybe we should talk about this. The Jovic contract. This
Oh,
ties into it, right?
it's very well crafted. Shout out to those who crafted it.
Yes, so those who crafted it. Here's the thing about the Jovic contract and how this could fit into this. Again, I'm not expecting Giannis to be here, as much as I'd love to hope traffic that. But the Jovic contract could have been done the usual way, which is increases every year. It could have been done the descending way, like the contract that Jalen Brunson took in New York. But it's not. It's higher. Well, it's a higher first number, lower middle two numbers, and then a higher
Yeah,
last number.
it's bookended by two higher numbers, and then it dips lower in the off seasons where Miami has the potential. I
Right.
say that word potential
Right.
to have flexibility depending on who
It gets
of
extended.
these other guys get extensions. Yeah.
Right. So they gave themselves, it's not much. It's like $1.5
Yeah.
million here, something like that. But there's a little bit more wiggle room in the 27 and 28 summers, which tells you a couple things. Number one is everybody's out on the 26 summer already. All those podcasts we did about the 26 summer, those players, for the most part, Luka was among them, extended. The 27 and 28 classes have the potential to be more interesting, but that requires some of these guys to decline player options, which probably they will. And some of the guys we're talking about are old, like Curry. Okay, like so and Kawhi has issues, right? And he's also another of those 27 ones. But there's a little bit more interest right now in the 27 and 28 classes, and essentially what the Heat have done is they're trying to give themselves a little bit more space at that time if necessary. If not if necessary, but if somebody pops who they
Yeah.
may be able to get their
Even a
hands on.
year early. I think that
Right.
that's the other thing is that they're trying to position themselves where you can potentially just get in that mix. And obviously it's going to require them evaluating guys like Andrew Wiggins. Norm Powell's an expiring contract. If you chose not to extend him, like you'd have to think about that at the
Right.
deadline. Like, and so it's unfortunate because some of this deviates from just the on-court product. And I think that there are going to be some things about this team that are going to be fun and exciting, but there's team building that is like forward-thinking team planning that you have to think about with this roster right now that's going to just inevitably keep things in flux, I guess I'd say, until you get through these next couple off seasons and see if the Heat end up being able to strike with flexibility.
Right, and I also think there's a frustration point with the Heat fan when we talk about this stuff because they're like, oh, they're pushing it out another year. They're just giving themselves flexibility for that period of time. I know everybody hates that word too, but that's the name of the game here. And so it doesn't mean they're not going to get anybody next summer or during this season. It just means that the chances are a little greater, maybe a year or two out or a year and a half out. And so give yourself the most space, and then you try to figure out what you can do with the hero extension. But it's an interesting contract look, and credit to Spotrac. I think Keith Smith reported it first yesterday. And it also, when you look at the Jovic numbers on paper, when you really see them, and you look at the way he's playing and what his upside is, it's a good.
If he's
contract.
A triple-double threat in any role, starter or not a starter, although I think he's going to be a starter.
He's going to be a starter.
That triple-double threat stuff, that Spo loves to have players like that, and he just looks ready.
Yeah, he does. And that leads us to this as we close. Okay, we'll do a podcast on where I have not. I'll just start with this, and we wrote some of these stories for the Sports Illustrated site. I haven't seen Spo consistently go after one of his players publicly. Go after is a strong word, but he's trying to get something out of him by using public interviews in a way that he has not done since Whiteside, and that. We talked about that clip that my friend sent me, and the 16 seconds of Khalil just standing there while things are happening around him on as he's on the defensive end. And I got to think there are a lot more clips like that, because when Spo comes out after a guy has 18 and 13, and I know a lot of it was garbage time.
That's what we talked about on the post-game show. Like, if you box score watched, you thought he was the best player out there, but that was not the case, and that is going to be something that we have to watch.
Just the fact that he didn't start, but then also Spo brought him in not just with the second unit the second time around, but he brought Precious out first. And I'm gonna take credit for this. I said on Off the Floor, there's gonna be games this season. They brought in a try-hard guy. Precious plays hard. He has limitations, but he plays hard. They brought in a try-hard guy, in my view, for a reason. There's going to be games where just frustrates the coach, and in the second half, the guy who's going to come off the bench to replace Bam is going to be Precious. I'm forecasting that it's going to happen at some point, and so I'm not saying that's
on
what
the next
happened.
5 on the floor.
On the next 5 on the floor. We'll get to that in the next one. All right, we'll see. Look, the coach is saying this stuff. I'm not, but it's kind of obvious when you're watching it. All right, thanks to Greg. Thanks, Zbiotics. Use the code on the floor. Prize Picks. Use the code 5. We didn't mention them today. And also 305-800-PAIN. Have a good one, everybody.
Thank you for listening to the 5 on the Floor on the 5 Reasons Sports Network. After all, someone needs to listen to my dad.